Good morning, my friends. Welcome to more training from me. So I'm Marshall Burtcher, and I help codependents rediscover their well-being and happiness after narcissistic abuse and codependency, and I help them do that in 3 stages. I help them begin to heal and reclaim themselves from the trauma bond by restoring their safety, sanity, and self. And I help them come to know themselves by understanding and differentiating themselves from others so that they can know, love, and live who they are. And I help them create sustainable, happy relationships using what I call the what, how, who model. So that's me, and today we're going to start a new series, and this one's called Discovering the Real You, and it's based on a principle called differentiation. So we'll get into that here in just a moment. Before we do that, I need to share this out to the community. The community is your safe haven here on the internet, where you can find tools, guidance, and support in your journey beyond codependency. You can discover that you're not crazy, you're not alone, and you've got people who've got your back in your journey beyond the abuse, beyond losing yourself or not knowing yourself, beyond the codependency, and come back to who you are so you can know, love, and live a life that you enjoy. So our link is above on Facebook, below on YouTube. If you're on that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button as I upload tools and videos and trainings throughout the week on a pretty regular basis. So I'm going to get this shared out to there for right now. As I'm doing that, let me know you're here. Comment below and let me know how you're doing. And now they've changed things again. So now I've got clicky thingies. There we go. And voila. There we be. So it's nice to see you all. It's nice to be here with you. Differentiation. So in codependency, we become enmeshed in the other person. We become lost in their opinion, their thought, their value, their preferences. We lose ourselves. And this happens for a very specific thing called external orientation. External orientation is basically I see myself through the eyes of other people. I define myself through the eyes of others. I define my worth, I define my feelings, my wants, my needs, my personality based on their responses, based on their preferences, based on what I think they want. So that's external orientation. We do this because it's how we survived neglect. It's how we survived the impact of being abused, neglected, attacked, shamed, gaslit. We weren't really taught to reference ourselves, to respect or value ourselves. Instead, we were taught to respect them and what they value and what they say. We weren't guided to understand what we thought, what we valued, what mattered to us. We were taught to value what mattered to them and then do that. And a lot of times this shows up as just plain old obedience in family structures and cultural and religious structures and in relationships. And that is not how we find ourselves, and that's not how healthy relationships actually function. Healthy relationships function from a premise of privilege and consent, which means it's a privilege to be in your world, to know you, to understand you, to be connected with you, and to share the world with you. And I need to ask for what I want from you because I am not entitled to your resources and you are not obligated to give them to me. This builds a strong form of respect, trust, and intimacy between those involved in the relationship so that they can be themselves and thrive in that environment. Well, in codependency, because of this external orientation, we never get to really know ourselves. So some signals that you might look for to tell if you've been externally oriented: you're highly concerned with other people's approval and rejection. Their approval and their rejections determine how you feel about yourself. So you feel really good when you're approved of and really, really terrible when you're not. Your sense of worth fluctuates based on people's approval or happiness or satisfaction with you. You struggle to know and access your own feelings, your own wants, your own needs. You don't know how to identify them. You struggle to connect with what they are. You wrestle to label them. Like, what is my need? I don't even know what I need here. You feel shame and guilt for having needs, for having wants, for having boundaries, for having limits, for having capacities. You have shame and guilt for feeling different or being different than you are, than other people are. These are all signals of enmeshment. These are all signals that you've been neglected and abused in some way and experienced and internalized that in some way about yourself. This enmeshment is also signaled by the need we have for someone else to be in our world so that we feel lovable. So if someone loves me, that means I'm lovable. Someone doesn't love me anymore, then I'm no longer lovable. We believe that someone else's approval and love makes us lovable or unlovable. At an extreme level, this is where the trauma bond comes into place, where love addiction develops, where we're fused with the other person. We lose ourselves in the relationship. We lose ourselves in their thoughts, their feelings, their wants, their needs, and we're not able to access ourselves, or we're very scared to access ourselves because, well, that's going to get us punished. That's going to get us harmed. These are all signals of enmeshment. These are all components of, this is a dominant experience of codependency. So codependency is the result of enmeshment. It's the result of a specific cycle that I work with, because codependency can come from 3 different kinds of cycles. The one I specifically work with is the narcissistic abuse cycle, which is seduction, abuse, discard, and euphoria, distress, despair. You can get it through avoidant. You can become codependent with emotionally unavailable and highly avoidant individuals who just discard or leave you. They don't create a secure bond with you, so you begin to chase them because you're in a fawn response, or you're fearful, so you're fleeing, you're chasing after them, so you're trying to keep things going there. That tends to surrender ourselves so we can keep the love, that kind of thing. Those are all the fun stuff about codependency. The way out of this, and something I teach very deeply in the Heal Yourself strategy, the Know Yourself strategy, and the relationship strategy, is called differentiation. This is how we start to define ourselves from someone else. So the whole concept of differentiation is to be able to tell the difference between objects. So if I have 2 M&Ms, I can delineate the differences between the M&Ms. One is blue, one is yellow. One's bigger, one is smaller. One's more lumpy, one's more smooth. That kind of thing. That's differentiation. I can tell the difference between objects. Well, we need to do this with ourself. We need to do this with our identity. We need to do it with our value. We need to do it with our feelings, our wants, our needs, our body, our space, our differences, our samenesses, our personality. And when we start to differentiate ourselves, be able to tell ourselves from another human being, then we start to be able to do what I call internal orientation or self-reference. I can identify what I think. I can identify what I feel. I can identify what I want, what I don't. I can identify what I think about this situation and accept that it's different than what they think about this situation. I don't have to enmesh or agree with them or adopt their point of view in order to feel connected or to feel safe. I feel anchored and safe in my individuality, and I'm building relationships with people who value that individuality too. This is basically what differentiation is. And in this new series, I'm going to give you experiments and information and guidance and mentoring on how to start this process in your world. This is the first major step in coming back to who we are so that we can discover it. And differentiation, I often start with safety first. Like in the Heal Yourself strategy, we start with safety. We need to define what safety is, and then we need to start nurturing it. So safety is the ability to get your needs met and express yourself and have share yourself in ways where you are valued and respected. And there's 3 specific safeties that need to be satisfied. You need physical safety, emotional safety, and relational safety. This starts to help us create a container in which we can start to define ourselves. We can start to differentiate ourselves from others and start to explore who we are and discover what we like, what we don't like, discover our own value, voice, and our own vision, and really get more in contact with the truth of who we are. Because a lot of times in the codependent experience, we've absorbed things from others. One of the big things we tend to absorb is shame. We absorb the rejection and criticism and shaming of another person, or shaming from another person, as a de facto value about ourselves. I am unworthy. I am unlovable. I am a shameful being. We take that from them rejecting us, from not wanting us, from criticizing us, from trying to control us or absorb us or smother us. We internalize this as there's something intrinsically wrong with me. Because if I were different, like they say, then I would be loved by them. So I must be faulty. I must be wrong. We have to start in this area with shame so that we can differentiate ourselves from the shame. Because the shame is programmed. It's something that we have internalized from an external source. And then we can start to return that or externalize it and go, this is your shame. And then start to discover the feelings that arise within us with that process. Because often, at least in my experience and experience of my clients and students over the last 12 years, when that shame is set aside, we find grief, we find sadness, we find some anger. These are the real experiences we've gone through. This is our voice starting to perk up and go, I didn't like this. This wasn't loving. This wasn't kind. This is not how I want to be treated. And I'm really heartbroken. I'm really sad that you don't see or receive me the way I am. We're differentiating ourselves from them and from their approval and rejection and from that shame. We start there, and what this does is it opens up a huge window for us to do what I call value retrieval, value activation, and value differentiation. We're going to get more into that in our next video. But what this does for us, when we're able to embody our value, we're able to anchor it in our physical somatic experience. It's here in the body, and we're able to live in that space. We're able to start very clearly seeing ourselves different from others and others different from us, others same or similar to us, and vice versa. This is a huge core component to differentiation and coming to know, love, and live who we are. And it starts with value. I started with value because, well, for a long time, I tried to love myself. Love myself by, doing loving things to myself, or trying to be the person I wanted to be or thought I should be, or liking the things I like, stuff like that. And those are part of loving ourselves. But when I came into value, feeling worthy, feeling enough, I had a huge wrestle there because, well, all that's transactional a lot in our relationships. It's something that we feel like we have to earn, we have to chase after, that we have to prove worthy for, that we have to deserve. And so it's very externally oriented to us at that point. We're anchored and driven and governed by other people's approval and rejection in that model. And so I kept running into this wall with this transactional value, and I said, something's got to change here. I've got to step out of this. And everybody, not everybody, but the frequent cliche is, just love yourself, right? You're lovable just as you are, things like that. There's truth to this. But how do we get there, right? That was my big struggle. Well, if I'm really lovable, then why do people do this? Or why do I feel that? And that's because of this enmeshment. It's because my value wasn't differentiated from their approval and rejection. In a very deep way, I wasn't in contact with what I call innate value. Innate value is the foundation I build our self-aware from, our self-awareness from. It's where we start to discover ourselves. So when I'm in contact with my true value, what is really within me, my innate worth, everything else starts to line up because my perspective changes, the things I say and do, want and don't want shift, because now I'm very much oriented in my own world. How we get there is by differentiating our value from other people's rejection and approval. And we'll talk about that more in our next training. So, my friends, if you're struggling to know who you are, you're feeling lost in other people's feelings, you get lost in relationships, you feel controlled by approval and rejection, you feel like you don't exist or you're not real unless you're in a relationship or someone is actively engaging with you. If you feel like you absorb other people's emotions, their energy, you get sucked into their world, you're dealing with enmeshment, and differentiation is the solution to that. So we'll be going in depth on this through this training. It'll be a great, I'm excited for it. I think it'll be a great platform or series of training to help you guys build and experience who you are. And if you want to go deeper on that, I invite you to join both the Heal Yourself strategy and the Know Yourself strategy. The links are below. Depending on where you're at in your journey, if you're really struggling with codependency, you don't have safety, you don't have sanity, and you don't really have an anchor into yourself yet, Heal Yourself strategy is where you want to start. And if you want to go deeper into understanding, knowing, loving, and living who you are, then join the Know Yourself strategy. Currently, it starts live in August, so we've got a little time for that. But the automated version, which is called the Happiness Strategy, is available, and you can jump into that for a discounted price today if you want. The link is below on Facebook, or above on Facebook, below on YouTube. My friends, remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping, and that there is freedom. There is a way out of codependency and out of the drama, out of feeling lost in our world, in your world, and coming back to yourself. And it can happen. I know because I've done it myself, so I'm coming to you from my own personal experience and what it took for me to define myself from the culture, from the parents, from the environment I grew up in, and come to really know myself and know how to know myself, because we're not just static beings. We grow, we evolve, we change, and I teach you how to be in contact with who you are right now and give you the power to, and connect you back to your power, rather, because I'm not the one that gives you the power. You already have it. I just show you how to connect back to your power to define who you want to be in your world. So there you go. Give this a thought today. Go out, explore the difference between objects, between you and others, and see if you can identify the space between you and those things, you and those people, you and those places, you and those feelings, and see what arises for you in that world. And I'll see you guys in our next training. Have a great day.